Flash, Season 1, Episode 2, entitled The Fastest Man Alive. I couldn't have thought of a better title. First, let me just mention that this second episode is very important. Almost as important as the pilot, because, sure, the pilot was good. It was very good. And judging from the ratings, a lot of people wanted to tune in to see if the show would be good. But the second episode had to keep those fans, had to keep people wanting to stick with the show. And my verdict is that this episode did just that. I very much enjoyed this episode. A lot of things that I liked about it. Let me talk about the very beginning. Hearing Barry Allen do voiceover over himself as he's about to save the day. I like that because it gave me a lot of Spider-Man vibes. I can't tell you how many times I would start a Spider-Man movie and hear Peter Parker do voiceover telling about what it's like for him to be Spider-Man. I got that vibe from Barry Allen. And what do you know? In the very first scene, just as I'm having that thought, he goes into a burning building and saves a little girl. Yes, Spider-Man written all over it. Not a complaint though. I even really thought it was hilarious when Barry was going so fast he overshot the building. Only a show like this could take him about to save people from a burning building and add some comedy to it. Some of my favorite things, just before I get into the actual plot, some of my favorite things in the episode was the flashbacks with Little Barry and Detective West, because I like the relationship. I like the fact that this guy raised Barry. He, in a lot of ways, was his father, and seeing everything that he had to do for him and how he had to put up with Barry, because clearly all he was thinking about was his real father being in prison, wrongfully accused. And I felt a little bad, actually a lot bad, when Barry said to him, "You're not my father, so stop pretending to be," and all that. Sure, it's again Peter Parker saying that to Uncle Ben, sure, but I felt for Wes, because I mean, come on, you can't tell a guy who has been that important to you something like that. But at least he took it back at the end of the episode. At least he had that realization. He had that moment to tell him that, look, you've done all this stuff for me, and I appreciate it. Also, when they were going back and forth, and Wes just kind of throws out there, well, it's not like you're bulletproof. And then he stops and says, "You're not bulletproof, right?" Because you never know in this world. I want to mention that Iris, Wes's daughter, for the scene when she wants to know what's wrong with him and he can't tell her, but he goes in fast motion and basically tells her without her realizing it because he's going so fast, and then he comes out of it and she didn't hear a word he said. I like that because you could see how much he wants to tell her. I know, Spider-Man comparisons all the time, but it reminded me of Mary Jane and Peter Parker's relationship. How much he desperately wants to tell her, but he can't. I liked the moment when everyone figured out that Barry has to eat more than normal. It's something that I wouldn't even have thought of. I'm sure other people would have sat at home and said, you know what, if he's going this fast, then his body should be burning this amount of energy, and his metabolism should be this, and blah, 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 blah. But no, it's almost like they thought of it, they addressed it in the second episode, and now it's a non-issue. I like that a lot. Little details like that is very important. Let me talk about the main villain of the episode, Danton Black. When I heard his name, I said, all right, let me look this guy up, because he's got to be from the comics. And he is. Multiplex, that they eventually name-dropped by the end of the episode. I thought that was cool. I like, and this is more of a show overall thing, I like the fact that that incident at the lab not only affected Barry, but it affected a lot of other people. It's the cause of all of these villains now coming out of the woodwork. And I thought his power was interesting. Him multiplying himself. He reminded me of that X-Men character from X-Men The Last Stand. The guy who just had like 100 versions of himself. The only real complaint, I guess, that I have is there was a couple moments, more so in the beginning of the episode, where clearly there was a bunch of exposition dialogue, almost as if for anyone who might have missed the pilot or even just forgot some stuff, they had lines where they remind you everything. And I get it. I get that sometimes stuff like that has to be there. But it did feel a little forced, like when they mentioned Caitlyn's fiance and how he died, and Barry pretty much retold that whole thing. I'm kind of sitting there going, I already know that. I get it. Hopefully they'll do that in every episode. Minor nitpick. The way the episode ended, Harrison Wells, the guy in the wheelchair who, this was just like the first episode where the whole time he seems like a nice guy. He seems like he's a part of the team. He seems like somebody you can trust. But then the very last scene, he does something evil or just weird. And sure, he's saying he's doing this to protect the Flash and whatnot, but he killed the guy. That doesn't really look all that heroic or good. And the fact that he really doesn't need that wheelchair, he's shady, there's something about him. I need to know more. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below if you saw this episode. What did you think of it? Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Later!